Story of the World, Volume 2, Chapter 7. Islam Becomes an Empire. Part 1. The Fight for Mecca. Muhammad lived in Medina for 2 years. The Muslims who had come to Medina from Mecca obeyed Muhammad's teachings and did whatever he commanded. And soon, so did the people who had always lived in Medina. They came to him with their difficulties and their questions. "Muhammad," one man might say, "I promised to pay my neighbor 2 pieces of gold for his camel. I gave him the gold and he gave me the camel. I took the camel home, but the next morning it was dead. He sold me a sick camel. Shouldn't I get my money back?" Then Muhammad would decide whether the man would get his money back. Now, Muhammad was more than just a prophet. He was also the ruler of a city. He had to be a judge and a king as well as a preacher. And the people of Medina followed the laws that Muhammad made. "Be kind to your parents," he ordered his followers. "Be loyal to other Muslims. Always watch out for them. Don't drink wine or eat pork. Those things are bad for you. And take care of your families." Muhammad's new laws made life in Medina peaceful. But the city of Medina had other problems. There was barely enough food and water in Medina to take care of the people who had always lived there. And now Muhammad's followers, all the Muslims who had fled from Mecca, needed food and water as well. Soon, people in Medina began to go hungry. So several of the city leaders went to visit Muhammad. "Prophet," they said, "our children are hungry. There's barely enough water to keep us alive. What will we do?" Muhammad thought for a long while. Finally, he said, "Go out to the high road and wait until you see a caravan of camels taking food and supplies to the city of Mecca. Then raid the caravans and take the food and water. Bring it back here to Medina and share it with those who are hungry." So, Muhammad's followers went out to the road and hid until caravans went by. Then they stole food and water from the merchants headed for Mecca, just as Muhammad had commanded. For weeks, the Muslims raided the caravans headed for Mecca. Soon, the leaders of Mecca grew angry. "What will happen to us here in Mecca?" they complained. "The caravans are empty when they arrive at our walls. If we don't stop Muhammad and his followers, we'll begin to go hungry ourselves." So the army of Mecca marched out towards Medina. When Muhammad heard that Mecca's army was on its way, he gathered his own army together and marched out to meet them. He told his followers that it was right to fight, because Medina was being attacked. His words are found in the Quran. It says, "Fight in the cause of Allah those who fight you." The 2 armies met at a place called the Wells of Badr, where caravans from Mecca used to stop for water on the journey. They fought until the Meccans admitted defeat. The army of Mecca retreated, and Muhammad declared victory. The fight became known as the Battle of Badr. But the quarrel between Mecca and Medina didn't end. The 2 cities fought with each other for 7 more years. Meanwhile, Muhammad and his men convinced more and more Arabian tribes to become Muslims. Now Muhammad had many allies willing to fight with him, and Muhammad declared Mecca to be a holy place. "From now on," he told his followers, "you must always pray facing towards the city of Mecca. This will show that you turn only to Allah Himself when you pray." The Muslims wanted to conquer Mecca more than ever. Finally, Muhammad and 10,000 Muslim warriors marched towards Mecca. When the wary, battle-scarred Meccans saw Muhammad's huge force, they surrendered. The Muslims entered Mecca triumphantly. They burned all the idols in the city and declared it the holy city of Islam. "Only Muslims will be allowed to enter Mecca from this day on," Muhammad declared. "No unbelievers may enter." Mecca is still the holy city of Islam today. Do you remember the 5th pillar of Islam? Every faithful Muslim tries to visit Mecca at least once during his lifetime. Part 2. The Spread of Islam. Now Muhammad ruled in Mecca. Soon, Muhammad and his followers ruled most of the Arabian Peninsula too. more and more Arabian tribes became Muslims, and Muhammad went on telling them what Allah wanted them to do. Now, Islam wasn't just a religion followed by a few tribes in the Arabian desert. Islam had its own empire, an empire as big as Arabia. Muhammad was the leader of this empire. But one day, Muhammad complained that he had a headache. He laid down to rest and never got up again. The Prophet was dead. Now, what would happen to the empire of Islam? Muhammad was the Prophet of Allah. Who else could tell the people what Allah required? The Muslims of Mecca gathered together to ask each other what they should do next, and many of them began to panic. "Can anyone else lead us?" they asked. "What if Islam vanishes now that Muhammad is dead? What if our whole nation falls apart?" But Muhammad's friend Abu Bakr stood up. Do you remember Abu Bakr? He was with Muhammad in Mecca when the leaders of the city were trying to kill Muhammad. "Friends," Abu Bakr said, "Muhammad is the only messenger of Allah. We follow Allah alone. Muhammad may be dead, but Islam lives." When the Muslims heard Abu Bakr's words, they became calmer. But they still needed a strong leader to govern the empire that Muhammad had built. So they chose Abu Bakr to be their new leader, or caliph. The caliph of the Islamic Empire ruled over all the people who believed in Allah. Abu Bakr wasn't a big, powerful man. He was small, thin, and dressed in shabby clothes. He was gentle and soft-spoken. But Abu Bakr, the first Islamic caliph, kept Islamic rule over Arabia strong. He ordered Muslim soldiers to attack and conquer any Bedouin tribes who rebelled against Islamic laws. This was only the beginning for the Islamic Empire. The caliphs who came after Abu Bakr attacked the Byzantine Empire and took away some of its land. They spread Islam all the way up to the Caspian Sea. They conquered the land to the east of them, almost all the way over to India. And they took over North Africa, the part of Africa closest to the Mediterranean Sea. Islam had started as the religion of one man, Muhammad, but now it had become much more. Hundreds of thousands of people now worshipped Allah. And Islam wasn't just a religion, it was an empire. The caliphs of the Islamic Empire built a new capital city on the banks of the Tigris River. The city was round, with 3 walls surrounding it. The caliphs called it Baghdad. Mecca was still the holy city of Islam, but Baghdad, the round city, became the center of the empire. The caliph lived there in a splendid palace. Ships sailed to Baghdad from far away to trade silks from China, spices from India, and gold and gems from all over the world. Baghdad became one of the busiest and most beautiful cities in the world.